Blog Talk Radio. The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network. The Women of Golf show is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips magazine. Here's more about our sponsors. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Good morning. Welcome to the Women of Golf, the #1 women's golf show around the world, with hosts Ted Odorico and Cindy Miller. Join them as they interview some of the best players from the Symetra, LPGA, and Legends Tour, and so many others, helping to elevate women's golf. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
All right, good morning, everybody, once again, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, is LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning. How are you?
You had to think about that for a second, didn't you?
I was on mute. Next door neighbor's mowing his lawn.
Oh, well, isn't that nice? He'd come up and cut mine, too. Anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We got a great show for you this morning. A quick shout-out. Unfortunately, she is not able to join us, but I want to congratulate Pei-Yun Cheng, who is the winner of this past week's Symetra Tour event, the Circling Raven Championship. Unfortunately, her schedule was conflicting with ours, so she wasn't able to join us. But we will have a Symetra Tour player next week on the show. So we're not going to have a player this morning. We're going to start off here in a moment with, as I put it, a mixed bag of topics in the No BS zone. And a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by our very special guest, Melia, who is an LPGA Class A teacher professional and also the head women's golf coach at Monmouth University. She'll be joining us on the second half. But Cindy, I wanted to just talk to you for a second about last week. You were up at the French Lick Resort in Indiana at the Senior LPGA Women's Championship. Tell us how that went. How did you fare? And did you have a good event?
The event was great. The golf course is amazing. It poured Wednesday afternoon and canceled the remaining portion of the Pro-Am, so they couldn't finish. And then it rained again Friday late, and play was suspended for a while. And it came down sideways, blowing like crazy. But Dave Harner and his crew are unbelievable and got that place ready to roll. All the tents were blown over. Everyone lost all of their merchandise. It was really something else. But again, they have the best attitudes there. They do everything they can to make sure that everyone there has a great time. So they did a great job. I did not fare very well as normal. I did break 80 though, so that's a big deal. On the day I broke 80, I made 3 doubles. So it's just, as they said on the television, the telecast from the Golf Channel, one swing can cost you 4 or 5 shots. And that swing doesn't have to be that bad. It can be off just by a little. I hit some pretty squirrely shots that I got away with, but I got to tell you, I hit some that were bad and they cost me. So, again, I'm thrilled that I got to play. It's an honor. I don't know how many major championships I've played in. I am going to sit down one of these days and count them all up. But it's just, to be able to play on a major championship at this age is pretty amazing. So I'm thrilled and honored. And the greatest news, I was awarded the Nancy Lopez Golf Achievement Award. And that came out last Tuesday morning. After our show, and it is given to a player with that resembles or emulates Nancy, and Nancy Lopez, needless to say, should be everybody's hero. Leadership, passion, approachability, and giving back to the game. So I am thrilled. I will be given that award at the PGA show in Orlando in January, and I can't tell you how many people have said congratulations, so I'm thrilled.
Well, congratulations from me as well. I remember actually receiving that email just as our show was actually going on, yeah, it was very, very exciting. Congratulations and well-deserved. You know, as I said so many times, you've mentioned over the years that you really spin so many plates, you do so many things to give back to this game, and it's an honor really to be recognized by whether it be your peers or what have you for doing such a great job. It's one thing I've noticed about the golf industry, about so many of its individuals involved, whether it be on the teaching side or even the players, is there's a lot of selfless people that are always giving. And Nancy Lopez obviously was one for years that always gave back to the game. And I can't think of a better person to be a recipient of her award than Cindy Miller, our very own. So congratulations once again.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled and honored.
Yeah, and we'll hear more about that, of course, a little bit later on when you're at the PGA Merchandising Show in January, as you said, once you get the award. But congratulations again. All right, so I want to talk to – let me just back up real quick.
One more thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One more thing.
Yep.
Yep. So on my way home, I got an email from the LPGA, and as most of our listeners will probably know, that this week is the Solheim Cup, and they needed some observers to walk inside the ropes next Monday, which is Labor Day, and the final round of the Solheim Cup. So I was not planning to go, but I am now going to go, so I'm absolutely thrilled because I've never been asked to walk inside the ropes at, the Solheim Cup or the Ryder Cup or the Walker Cup or the Curtis Cup. So I'm going next Sunday, and I will be inside the ropes, and I will give you all the latest scoop and what happens during the last final round of the Solheim Cup next week.
Very good. How exciting. What a great opportunity. We'll look forward to that next week. Real quick, just on sort of piggybacking on that, I saw something yesterday on social media, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Annika Sorenstam and Renee Powell are the coaches, or the captains rather, for the junior Solheim Cup. Is that correct? Did you hear that or see that too?
I believe that is true, yes.
Yeah, I thought what a great pairing to be involved in something like that. So I know they'll both do well, both very experienced lady professionals. Lots going on in the world of women's golf these days. Very, very exciting. All right, we're going to talk about the mixed bag of topics, if you will, in the No BS zone. And I want to start off with this one here in lieu of your play last week. And that is to talk about 5 tips that we can help our golfers navigate any round. And it doesn't matter whether you're playing in a club championship or whether you're just playing with your regular foursome each week in just an any old day round. There's some things that I've jotted down some notes, and you may have some different ones. Obviously, there's going to be, I'm sure, some similar ones as well. But here's some things. The first one I always look at, and this is really not on the golf course, and these don't necessarily, I don't look at necessarily the tips that you have to actually be on the golf course necessarily to do these. So the first one is to prepare. That one I think is first and foremost. You can never prepare enough for a round. Obviously, there comes a point in time you're playing your round and you're there, but there's things that you can do, and I think that preparing really encapsulates a lot of different things. That is understanding, making sure you're setting up properly to the ball, making sure that you've got a good grip. So your fundamentals, you want to review all of those, and you want to make sure that you're doing things. You don't want to make any drastic changes. But preparation is a big one, I think, for the round. Tell me what you do, Cindy, to prepare for a round, or even in your case, you might want to say a tournament. Is there anything particular that you do to prepare?
Well, you have to hit balls, needless to say. Practicing is important. You know what, because I just got back, and I got back Sunday night, and some of the swings that you make stick with you. It's almost like a delayed intelligence attack, and you can remember those swings. And again, it's my left shot, right? So I'm never trying to miss it, and no one I've ever met is trying to miss the ball. And you need to figure out, why do you do what you do and what causes that error. And yesterday, I was off yesterday, and I had to do a lot of stuff, in the office, needless to say. But in the afternoon, I have to go play 9 holes by myself and figure out what causes this miss. It's almost like I must defeat my demons. And some people give up and say, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I can't do that. And I'm figuring out little tiny things like stand a little taller, pick up your head, swing it in, and keep the club head going to the target. I watched the final holes of the Senior LPGA Championship on the Golf Channel. And all of those women, needless to say, they're playing great because they're in the last 2 groups. They know what they're doing with the club to make the ball go where it goes. And I would tell our listeners that it's so important for you to know what you're doing with the club. And it needs to be an offensive move with belief, control, trust, and understanding. And if you don't have that, you're not playing with confidence.
Right.
And I want to play. I've got a couple more events coming up. The LPGA Northeast versus the Southeast Championship, the Pro-Am at the National Summit, and then I'm going to play in the LPGA Team Championship with Barb Moxness, who came in 3rd in the tournament this week. I'm going to work on my game to make sure that I have that trust, belief, and confidence in where the ball's going. Now, you're still going to miss shots, but it's not going to be a horrific swing. So I want to know what I'm doing. And when you prepare, you need to find, I call it a learning style. Either you want to see it, feel it, or hear it. It's so important that you know what you're doing rather than just grab the club and go. It's imperative. Yep. And then I text myself what I'm doing, just so I remember.
Yeah, that's a great way to keep yourself informed on what you need to do or what you've done. No, that's a great way to put it, Cindy. I couldn't agree more. And the second thing too is, and this is something that a lot of people get rushed, going to the course. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Is a good warm-up routine, and it's different from a practice routine. Practice, you're working on maybe some specific things. You're trying to hone some areas of your game, but a warm-up is just really to get a feel for the day, and that's where I think a lot of people miss the boat. And if you warm up effectively, if you get a good understanding of what game you're going to have that day, and that means if you're maybe slicing the ball a little bit, don't try to fix it out in the golf course. Just go ahead and play with what you've got that particular day. And if you don't understand what game you're bringing to the course that day, you're going to get out there and you're going to be shocked and you're going to get overwhelmed because, like you said, you're going to have some good shots. You're going to have certainly some bad shots. And if you don't understand what your bad shots are for the day, you can't prepare for it. You can't adjust to it. And what I mean by adjusting is if you've got a slice or if you're hooking the ball a little bit on a regular basis, you can make adjustments out in the golf course. I don't mean adjusting your swing, but adjusting where you're aiming, that sort of thing. And that's something that I see a lot of people. And I always say, Cindy, maybe you have a different philosophy for this, but I always look at people coming to the golf course and having at least 30 minutes before you tee off And I don't mean you have to warm up for 30 minutes, but you want to be there early. How many people, Cindy, have you seen come up and it'll be like 10 minutes before their tee off, they're running out to the range, they're hitting 2 or 3 balls just to say they've hit some, and then they're racing to the tee for their first hole. That's not going to help you be successful in a round. What do you think?
Well, anytime you're rushing, here's another thing I saw. I was so grateful to be able to watch this event on the Golf Channel, and lucky enough, my daughter's husband, Ben Elijah, was producing the show. And I just looked at my husband. I said, I swing like a wild woman. And he just gave me that ugly smile, right? I try so hard, and they don't even look like they're swinging, which I've said this about younger tour players, right? But not older tour players that are my age. And it was so good for me to see their swings in tournament play on TV, because I'm like whipping it back and flinging it through, and it's no wonder it goes crazy. So if you're rushing, which I'm always rushing, which you know, I beat the clock today, right, by a minute and 3 seconds. If you're always rushing, your heartbeat's going to be faster, you're going to swing faster, everything's going to be faster. You need to breathe to slow down. Should I be listening to what I'm saying right now, maybe?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't jump out of the car and run to the first tee. You should not do that.
Right.
So plan ahead of time. And if you're always running late, give yourself an hour so that you have a half hour. So you're right.
Exactly.
Do not rush.
Yeah, you need to be there. Yeah, you need to be there ahead of time. You need to be relaxed, and certainly I agree in getting there even earlier. I don't mean you get there at 30 minutes, but you need to have 30 minutes before you tee off, because you don't want to warm up an hour before and then you're resting for 30 minutes and then you're not warmed up anymore. You want to warm up before you play, but you want to allow yourself. I always recommend about 20 minutes, because I think that gives you a good, and then you still got 10 minutes to get back to the tee and get ready and adjust yourself, whatever you want to do. But I couldn't agree more. I would love it. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I would love to have a dial on the side of Alan's head every time you say that, I swing like a wild woman. I'd love to turn it up and hear what he thinks in his mind when you say that to him.
Yeah, no, it might cause a big fight.
I would love to know his thoughts. So number 2, warm up. And number 3 is, and this I think is, again, paramount, is having a solid pre-shot routine, because there's 2 reasons. One, it helps you prepare for every shot, but more importantly, by having a consistently solid and repeatable pre-shot routine for every swing that you're going to take out in that golf course, including putting strokes, helps develop a cadence, a rhythm, if you will, in the game. Cindy, you know this as well as anybody, how many times you see in Pro-Am events where you'll see 1 minute they're up there and they're throwing some grass clips up in the air and they're checking the wind and they're doing all this, and the next time they're doing something entirely different, and there's no consistency in their pre-shot routine. And over time, especially if a few bad shots have crept in, all of a sudden now their rhythm is out of whack. And if you watch the pros, as you know, Cindy, yourself, on TV, they have a consistent and repeatable pre-shot routine. And it's not just to gather the information and to prepare for the shot. It's to keep them in rhythm while they're out in the golf course. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you have to stay in rhythm. And some people, rhythm doesn't make sense to them because they never played an instrument, they weren't in chorus, and they'll say, I've got no musical background, but you have to have some kind of a swing thought or a cadence.
Mm-hmm.
I like cadence. That's a great word.
Sure.
To stay in the present moment. And the only thing, again, let's pretend that you're a pretty good player and or you're just trying to defeat your own personal demons. If you're afraid of where the ball's going to go before you swing the club, you need to back off the shot.
Yes.
And just say, all right, listen, I'm the only one holding the club. The club has no idea who's holding it. The ball has no idea what's in front of it. Whatever I do with this club is going to make the ball go where it goes. That's the simple truth. And if you do that, you will definitely hit it better. And I believe it's your right palm going the same direction as the face of the club that will help you get the ball to go straighter. And I must tell you that is absolutely imperative, because if you're just wailing away and have no idea what you're doing, your cadence is going to be off. You're going to be trying to hit the ball rather than swing the club, and you must swing the club to make the ball go where you want it to go.
Right. Well said. And you raise a really great point, too, is to back off. If you don't feel things are right, you back up. Obviously, we have to be mindful of slow play. You can't be just dawdling around and taking your time. But again, if you watch the professionals on TV, if they have a distraction during their routine or something throws them off, they will stop and they will start that routine over again. And there's a reason they're doing it. They're trying to gain their composure, if you will. They're trying to get their mind focused back on the task at hand, again, if they've been distracted or something. So, again, having a solid pre-shot routine and sticking with it, developing one that's right for you and sticking with that every time you step in front of that or behind that ball and go through that same routine and the same amount of time every time. And it might vary by a second, and that's okay, but you want it to be consistent. The fourth one I put, and I think this is, again, if you want to be successful in navigating those rounds, and that is having a game plan. You don't just show up to the golf course and say, well, whatever, happens. Hopefully whatever happened last time I came up to this golf course isn't going to happen again. That's just bringing old baggage, as we've talked about many times on the show. You've got to have a game plan. You've got to have a strategy, if you will. Cindy, you know as well as I do, and you do that, I know. You've got a game plan. When you went up to French Lick last week, you had a game plan, and you stuck with it. Talk a little bit about that, the importance of having a game plan.
You need to understand the best way to play a golf course. And for those playing tournament golf, where they mark the tee markers and the yardage that you're going to be playing from, the LPGA marked 2 different places on probably 8 of the 18 holes. So you have to be very aware playing a practice round. Is there a white line? The white line yardage is what they call it. And the white line gets put on the painted white line gets put on the tee box. And what that means is the tee markers will not be behind that line, but they could be in front of that line. Well, there's probably 6 sets of tees at French Lick. And if you don't pay attention, there was a hole that I was like, oh, I've never even seen this tee box. And we could have been playing from that tee box. You need to, when you play your practice rounds, be very aware of what's happening. So pay attention to what's going on around you. Make sure that you know where the tee markers might be placed. What's the best way for you to play that hole from each location? There might be places where you don't hit driver. You might even tee off with an iron, depending on the trouble that's in front of you. If it's a par 5 and there's a creek or a lake in front of you or a pond, and let's say you only carry your driver 130 yards, and to carry the water is 140. Well, you don't want to hit driver, so now you got to lay up, and you might have to hit an iron and then get the ball over the water after the tee shot. So be very aware how you can play the hole to your benefit. And I should be listening to what I'm saying, because there's some holes, number 16, which owned me on the first day, that, I said to my husband, or I didn't say it, he said, why don't you just hit a pitching wedge off the tee and put something on the green and 2-putt for bogey? Okay, fine.
Yep.
And I should have done that, because the hole just owns me. The next day I made par, though, so there you go. I beat it up. But again, what's the best way to play a hole? There's certain holes that don't look good to you. Listen to that little voice inside you, and then just say, okay, why am I hearing this voice, and what's my smartest play from this location?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know what? Jack Nicklaus famously talked about how some holes didn't fit his eye, and he said, I'm happy if I can get away with a par, even a bogey. Certainly he didn't like that, but if it meant getting away with a par as opposed to trying to go for it because it didn't fit his eye, because his typical shot shape was a left to right ball flight, and holes that favored a draw off the tee particularly were not particularly a hole that he desired to play, and he would aggressively go after. So again, he was very conscious of what the elements that were around him and what he was faced against, and having that game plan, being prepared and having a game plan. And this leads into the last one here, and that is to execute that game plan. I mean, you can't develop a game plan or a strategy, however you want to phrase it, and then get out on the golf course and after the first 2 holes throw it out, to the wind because maybe something didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. So you've got to stick with it. You've got to make that commitment and follow through. And see, that's something too that a lot of players really struggle with as well. What can you add to that?
You absolutely have to stick to it. And once you make a decision, again, that's part of it. You can hear players talking on telecast, and I watch them on Sunday afternoon, again, taking 2 clubs or 3 clubs up there with them to the tee box or to their location in the fairway. And once you make the decision, like, is this an 8 or a 9 iron, or is this a 3 hybrid or a 4 hybrid, or should I hit driver or not? Once you make that decision, you must commit to the decision. Because if there's doubt in your head, I mean, needless to say, Tiger Woods, in the middle of his backswing, I think it's in 16 at the Masters, you can't have that flailing thought in the middle of your backswing, oh my God, the wind just started howling and I can't hit this ball, right? Because you're going to miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things. And I think, too, having making that commitment helps with confidence as well. And the shot may not get pulled off the way you had hoped it would, but if you're confident in your decisions, if you go up there and you've made what you think is the right decision and you're second-guessing yourself, you've already lost half the battle, and you're more than likely not going to get a very good result anyways. So you're better to commit with, even if it doesn't come off the way you had hoped it does, at least you're confident that was the right club I chose. Maybe I didn't hit the shot just the way I needed to hit it, but it was still the right club, and it was the right circumstance that I was faced with. So you need to do that. And then the last one, actually, even though that was 5, I'm going to add one more on here, Cindy, and that is really to kind of have a go-to shot. We talked about this the other week, how to break 90, and we talked about, for those that are obviously less accomplished players, if you're not hitting your clubs, especially your longer clubs, very well, have a go-to shot. Tiger had that with his stinger he would hit famously. If he didn't feel good that hitting his driver off a thing, he pulled out his 2-iron and hit a stinger. Now, I'm not saying you're going to pull out a 2-iron and hit a stinger, but it might be a 7-iron for you. And maybe that's what you're going to hit off the tee. If your driver's really letting you down, have a go-to shot or a go-to club, if you will. I think that's important as well, so that in the case where you get up something and you're not feeling confident hitting, again, whether it be a driver or whatever the case may be, you've got a go-to club or a go-to shot that you know are confident and you can rely on get you to the next step. Any final thoughts before we move on?
I'm good.
All right. I think we hopefully help some folks. Again, you want to prepare. These are just some of the tips that we put together. You want to prepare. Warming up is important. Make sure you develop a solid pre-shot routine. Focus and develop your game plan for the day, and then make sure you execute and stick with it, and have that go-to club or shot in your bag as well in case you need it along the way. Good discussion. I enjoyed that. And, obviously we all get in a situation, Cindy, when we're playing in some sort of a tournament, whatever it may be, whether it be a senior women's LPGA championship or your club championship. Pressure can get to you, and I think if you have a good, solid plan and execute some of the steps that we talked about here earlier, I think you're going to be well on your way to having a good round. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back with our very special guest, Michelle Melia.
The following ad is sponsored by Golf Tips Magazine.
Are you tired of being short off the tee? And what about those 3 putts? Forget about it. It's time you got serious about your game. Golf Tips, the most in-depth magazine in the industry. For over 30 years, Golf Tips has delivered expert content such as the latest golf instruction from America's top pros. Simple to follow practice and game improvement drills, fitness and mental game tips, equipment, training aids, accessory and apparel reviews, golf destinations and travel tips for every budget, and so much more. Don't miss a single issue. Go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're now going to speak with our very special guest. She's an LPGA Class A teacher professional and the head women's golf coach at Monmouth University. Cindy, let's welcome our very special guest this morning, Michelle Melia.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're doing great. How are you?
We're doing.
Yeah, we're doing great here too. Just gearing up for our players to come back next week.
Don't come back till next week.
No, so Monmouth University is at the Jersey Shore, and we start later than everyone else. We start usually the Tuesday after Labor Day, and a lot of it is tied to our area. We're a big shore area, lots of activity in the summertime. We have a lot of people who come to visit and vacation. And our little tagline always is, we win where you vacation. So that's why we start late. So we kind of get the extra benefit of another week where most programs and schools are already back in session.
Got it. So when's your first tournament?
We open up at Boston College at the end of September. So really, really excited. This is my 4th year at Monmouth University, and was recently named director of golf. So I'm overseeing the men's and women's programs now, which is really exciting for me in my career, but also really kind of on this path to develop 2 programs that I feel in the next 5 years are going to be, pretty strong and contending for conference championships. So we put together a pretty significant and challenging fall schedule. So we'll be at Boston College, which our players are really excited about. We will be at Quinnipiac's event. We're going to Navy, which secretly I think is a trip that I can't wait to go to. I love Annapolis, and I love that golf course. We'll be hosting our own event with 10 teams here at the Shore, too, in mid-October, and then we wrap up at Lehigh at Saucon Valley. So the fall is typically speaking, weather-wise, is our best part of our year. But we also get an opportunity to play some really great tracks and places that have some history to it too. So it's going to be great and challenging for our players. We're still a pretty young program and pretty talented. So I think it'll be a good start to get the season going. And also, we are on campus right now. I would say all of our programs are so excited because this actually feels like a fall this year because we didn't compete last fall. So because we were dealing with COVID. So to have the energy and the other teams back for preseason, whether it be football or field hockey and soccer, it's just great to be back on the college campus and feel like a fall should feel like.
That's great. How many girls are on your team?
I have 10 players. I have 8 returners, and I have 2 incoming freshmen. On our men's side, we have 7 players. On our women's team, 4 years ago when I took the program over, I had really 3 players who could play and who are very talented young players. But I had to kind of beat the bushes a little bit and kind of get this program going in the right direction. So I actually had a softball player play for me and a walk-on who had never played golf in a competitive environment. So it was a really challenging and exciting year. And then the following year, we brought in a full class. We brought in 5 freshmen. So again, we're still a pretty young team. And we've won 4 events and since that time. So we're on the rise, I feel like. and certainly starting to attract some young women who are just kill it, both academically and also athletically. We had 4 All-American Scholar athletes this year, so they're I could go on and on. I'm very proud of them. They're a good group of kids, and certainly have bought into what we're trying to do at Monmouth.
Holy cow! Where do you find your players?
Great question. One of the things, especially for us in the Northeast, I really I try to really use the connections I have with teaching professionals and others that I know in the area. So we've done really well from the Long Island and actually Pennsylvania area. We have several players who are from New Jersey who play for us as well. But I also have a player as far away as Florida and West Virginia. So primarily a lot of my recruiting is definitely in the tri-state area. We, especially the Philadelphia area, and I'll say it again, the Long Island, Smithtown Landing area, really becoming a hotbed for really good girls golf. So that's where we've been pulling from, and it seems so far to be a really good mix for us. Players are doing well academically and at school with us, as well, as far as that's concerned, and as well as golf-wise. So, the one unique thing about being at a Division I program in our conference is that we really have an opportunity to do a lot of really great things during the year. But we also will conference championships, which will get us into the NCAAs, which is our eventual goal. So, for me as a coach, Monmouth is such a great place because we can do so many things and we can really provide a great experience for our players. So they're doing great athletically, have an opportunity to do a lot of things that some bigger programs do, even at a smaller or moderately sized college and university. So that's been like a home run. And I think for us, the kind of support we have from the university in general is huge. It's key, so we can get a lot of things done even if we don't have a budget that looks like a much bigger program. So,
very, very interesting.
So,
Michelle, let me ask you something. You mentioned a little bit ago about being off last year, obviously because of COVID, not having the ability to get out there. So you're in a new season now. You're gearing up for your first event here coming soon. What are you going to do to get your team ready physically, mentally, and even emotionally? What do you do to prepare your team? Because I think all 3 of those areas, it's not just a matter of being able to strike the ball well and play well. Mentally, you've got to have your mettle, if you will, and emotionally even as well. While you're out in the golf course, you've got to be able to compose yourself. What do you do to prepare your team in all those 3 areas?
Yeah, it's a great question, and certainly one of the things that I think is important and what we try to do is be very holistic in how we approach our players and in coaching in general. So you're absolutely right. We have we hear this said a lot with Vision 54, talking about the human skills and also the technical skills, right? So the golf is it's a lot more than just hitting a golf ball. I caught the end of the first part of your show today, in that a lot of that stuff was some of the same things that we're working on with our players, right? But just on a different level, depending on who they are. Mm-hmm. So we kind of approach it in a very 360-day kind of perspectives, meaning that during the school year, not only are we working on mechanics and the things that we need to do on the golf course, but we also do a full program with utilizing Vision 54. We do breakout sessions throughout the entire year talking about how do we approach golf tournaments, how do we approach balancing school, their social lives, what's going on in their family, right? And then golf, right? That's kind of the last on that list. I've been coaching for 25 years, and I know that the programs that I've been involved with that have been successful, the one thing that we were really able to do there was work to really focus on the 90% of stuff that was outside of golf, right? So to your point, emotionally, how are we preparing for events? How are we balancing school? What's going on with them personally? Are they growing as young women? That's probably my biggest job, right? So,
right.
So once we get back, so like, for example, like most of the summer we have done we brought in guest speakers and did Zoom calls, had Cheryl Anderson come in and speak to our players. She's a teammate of mine at Rutgers and has had a phenomenal career. That's typically what we'll do is bring in some guest speakers in addition to assignments that they may have during the summer and during the school year, whether it's Edition 54 or a book list, videos, and that type of thing. And once we get back to campus, my real goal for this beginning of this fall is a lot of team bonding. Our biggest challenge with COVID has been our inability to do a lot of things together. So, our world has really been so virtual. And I think it's great that we've been able to do things apart from each other, but that missing piece in human connection is going to be really our biggest goal this fall. And then taking them out throughout this entire year, it's huge. It's going to be huge. I think that was our biggest challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it is. I think that's going to be for a lot of people, not just in your arena, but also, we've all been for a long time and kind of cooped up, and some of us have been a little more fortunate being able to get out a bit more here over the last several months. But for a lot of areas, it's still been very difficult at times. And you're right, that human connection. Once that sort of gets frayed a little bit, you've got to sort of work it through again, and it sometimes takes a little bit of time. I want to do a follow-up from what we were just what you were just talking about, and that is, obviously, the goal of any golf coach is you want your team to win, but the truth of the matter is they're going to, hopefully not, but they're going to lose more often than they're probably going to win. How do you help them handle that loss? I think back to, Greg Norman famously losing the Masters several years ago to Nick Faldo, and that affected him. You've got some newer players. You mentioned some junior players that are in the mix now that maybe don't have as much experience in there. They're possibly going to handle a loss much more difficultly, than some of your more senior and seasoned players. How do you help them deal with a loss? What do you do?
Great great question. And since we lose more than we win, we're going to be having those conversations more often, right? And no doubt. And I think one of the things, the challenges that a coach usually has, and I know I've had, is when you're recruiting talented players who have been very successful at the level that they're at right now, right? And then they make the jump, right? They make that jump into collegiate athletics. It's a whole brand new world, right? Navigating all the different challenges and things that are going to occur. So one of the things that I try to do with our players is really manage expectations. I think expectations is going to be a huge thing. So when we sit down at the beginning of the year and we talk to them individually, kind of like coming up with whatever their personal goals are, but also doing it a couple different ways, right? We have these dream goals, right? We also have process goals, and we have action goals. So one of the things I really try to emphasize with them is getting lost in that process. It's very hard to kind of surrender the outcome. That's hard. It's going to affect, that's a tough thing for Greg Norman to do, let alone an 18-year-old coming into college to do, right? So we work really, really hard every day to manage those expectations and create excitement about the process. And when we do lose, we do it together. When someone is having a disappointing day or a round, we can have three players who are completely, on fire and one player who isn't. And it may be the opposite too, but we celebrate those things and do that together, just like we do with our wins. So it's a matter, one of the advantages our kids have, not only do they have a coach, they also have a group of teammates that are there to support them. So kind of creating that environment as well. And the final thing I'd say is that I'm sure every time it comes out of my mouth, they're probably half rolling their eyes when I say it. But there's two things. It doesn't matter how bad the weather is or whatever's going on in their lives. Today is a great day. It's a great day to be a Hawk. It's a great day to play for Monmouth University. We're going to learn how to handle adversity and challenges together. That's number one. And number two, our only goal every day is to get better. Are we better today than we were yesterday? So it's a day. Let's get better. And I found that that's been really helpful for us in keeping our eyes down the road, so to speak, and developing an atmosphere that they can handle both successes and failures well. And I truly hope that looking back, that 10 years, 15 years from now, that they look back and they feel like they've grown, because it is more than just the golf piece. Because that handling adversity and not doing well in something or failing, it's not just golf, right? It could be anything. Those skills they're getting is going to help them with everything else in their lives.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And, Cindy and I have had the pleasure of interviewing many of the young ladies, both up and coming and some of the more seasoned veterans on the Symetra Tour that have transitioned over the LPGA. And there's been moments in some of our discussions where they've come out and said, there was a time, things started off pretty good when I first got out on tour, and then all of a sudden the wheels fell off the bus, and I don't know what happened, but last week I felt like quitting, and yada yada yada, and all this sort of comes up. So emotionally, they're going to go through those pits and valleys and twists and turns. So as a coach, obviously, as you mentioned, part of your job is to prepare them to handle not only on the course but off the course, because golf is not going to be forever. I mean, they can certainly play it for many, many years, but there's going to come a point in time when their skill on the golf course is not going to be good enough to continue to win events outside of college. I'm talking about now, but they have to be comfortable within themselves. So again, maybe you could just touch on that a little bit more. What are some of the other things that you guys do as a group to prepare for when that day comes?
Right. Well, that's the thing. If we look at our program, I may have one or two players who really have the ambition, who really want to move on to another level, right? And have some of the budding talent skills to do that, right? The rest of my program, I've got, really brilliant nursing students and, business students and kids getting their MBA, and they're remarkable young women, right, and to be around. So I think the biggest thing for us is that, and to your point, is really preparing them wholeheartedly for the rest of their lives, right? So the golf piece is extremely important. That's why I'm here, right? That's why we're here. We're playing golf. We're competitive. We want to win. But really being able to develop all these different pieces. So one of the advantages of being a student athlete at Monmouth, and I think for our program, is that they get a tremendous amount of support, whether it's from a career development perspective. I do a lot of networking events with our alumni. I think it's extremely important for our young women to be mentored by people who have been in their shoes. We're starting a program right now where not only are our alumni going to help mentor our young women, but our young women are then going to give back to the first tee of the Jersey Shore down here and mentor their LPGA girls golf program. So I think that's just one quick example of some of the things that we do to develop them as complete human beings when they leave. Because they are going to move on to other things most likely, right? And they're gonna get some skill sets here that are tremendous. I want you to think about it this way: like anytime I have a player, a recruit come on campus, and the one thing I always say right from the start is, listen, just to be completely transparent, you're going to spend about 38 hours a week doing your sport. 38. That is before you go to school. That's before you eat. That's before you do anything else, or a party, or whatever else you want to have that is going on. It's like, so that's a full work week. That's just golf related. And then how do we help support these young women in being successful here? And I think we do that by all of the different education pieces, whether it's networking, career support, mental health support, the big thing on college campuses right now. It's something we do really, really, really well at Monmouth. Support in regards to their golf and what their future plans are, and how can I get them connected to the right people. So those are the things that we try to do as a program. And I think what ends up happening, and this is kind of the reverse of this, is that the better we do those things, the better we prepare them for the rest of their lives. We actually tend to be more successful on the golf course, right? Because it's more holistic, and it's more about them as people. So it's not golfers, it's not student athletes, it's young women and men who are playing at Monmouth, and that's what we're kind of in the business of. So last week I coached at Fairleigh Dickinson University in 2006, and we had a pretty good program there. And last week I got a text message from a player who from Germany, who was one of my first recruits, with a picture of the Ryder Cup flag that we had put on our van when we were driving to our first tournament at FDU. So some of the times when, we're all human and you're overwhelmed by paperwork and a million things, and you get that text message, or the text, I just got married, or the text, hey, I just got this job and we're having our first baby. And then you smile and you're like, all right, I'm in the right business. This is why I'm here. This is why we do what we do. It transcends golf. And I'm obviously very biased. The game has been a part of my life for 40 years. So I think it brings so much, growth for us as people. So I think when you get those messages back and you realize that you're making a difference, even if at the time it doesn't feel like it, that's pretty special. And I think that's what we overall are trying to do at Monmouth, is just create an environment in which these kids they're gonna grow, and help them along the way and support them in whatever way we can.
Well said. Cindy, go ahead.
Well, clearly you don't like your job.
Very obvious, right?
Very obvious. Holy cow. I'm very impressed with you, dear. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Just awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. That's all I got to say. Is I'm impressed. A lot of kids should be very grateful that they get to be with you, because you really care, and not everybody cares.
Thank you very much.
Well said.
I truly appreciate that.
Well, it's the truth.
Truly appreciate it.
They should be very grateful they get to be with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You do a great job.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. And I was just going to say, and we're always looking for other players, so keep us in mind.
What do players have to shoot?
So so our incoming freshmen, we're between 2 and 3 handicaps on the women's side, and then on the men's side, around scratch. So that's kind of what we're looking for on the junior level coming in, and then so if a young woman is shooting 78 or better, wants to be part of a really, I think, competitive program and win where everyone else vacations. I'll plug Monmouth there. We might be a good spot, so that's kind of what we're looking for. I also just a side note, I also I look for young women and men who have played some other sports too. I think it doesn't have to be they were this all-star baseball player or basketball player, at when they were in 7th grade, but more that they've played some other team sports. That's one of the I always feel like it's one of the challenges we have on the collegiate level. We have a lot of players, obviously, who have played golf their whole lives and in a very individual way, right? So whether they have a swing coach or a mental coach or whatever's going on with them, and then they kind of jump to our level, and now you're on a team with 10 other people. So that's something I also look at, and it may be a good advice for any parents out there who have young juniors who are looking to play in the collegiate level. Playing some other sports will be good for them. Doesn't have to, again, be at a high level, just the team concept, right? That being able to get along with others and well with others and be part of that. It's kind of the big key for us.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. No doubt. Well, Michelle, we want to thank you for joining us. Yeah, we want to thank you for joining us this morning, and much continued success and good luck this season at Monmouth. Hopefully you guys will get a lot of wins under your belt, and thanks for doing all the great work that you do to help the next generation come forward.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me, and appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll cross paths again at some point.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was Michelle Melia, head women's golf coach at Monmouth University. Great, really a great personality and a lot of energy, and you hit it right on the head. I mean, you can tell she really does enjoy and love the work that she does there, and I think that's why, she'll continue to be very successful in that position. Jersey Shore. We'll see what happens this season. All right, Cindy, you and I got to split. We got things to do, people to see, places to go, so we're going to have to end it there. But we want to thank everybody for joining us this morning on the Women of Golf. We hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you tune in next week where you'll hear us again on air. So tune in. God bless everybody. Have a great week. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's Women of Golf show. Ted and Cindy wish to thank this week's special guests. Remember to join them every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the iGolf Sports Network or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on the show, you can follow the Women of Golf Facebook page at www.facebook.com/womenofgolf. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.